Hi there. For today's tasting I wanted to share the experience of trying a Portuguese wine. This is Quinta da Gaivosa. It's from the Douro Valley. It's their 2020 red. The producer here is a family called Alves de Sousa. I think actually this wine really encapsulates some of the huge changes that have gone on in the Douro winemaking region in the last 30 years. The Douro Valley, where port is produced, has traditionally been run and managed by the large port houses based in Oporto, who produced and blended fortified wine from this rather warm region from the traditional Portuguese varieties that grew here. And the Alves de Sousa family have a long history of winemaking here. At least 5 generations of the family have been making wines in the Douro Valley. And essentially what they were doing was they were making port or selling fruit to the large port houses. But in 1987, Domingos Alves de Sousa took over the family business. And Domingos had trained in winemaking both in Portugal and in Bordeaux. And Domingos felt that he wanted to produce wines under his own family label. The other thing is, particularly Quinta de Gaivosa, which is their principal quinta, is in a relatively cool situation. It's in the Baixa Corgo, which is a side valley of the Douro Valley, and it's at slightly higher altitude than some of the rest of the valley. And being further away from the river as well, doesn't quite have as much of the moderating temperature influence, so they get quite cool nights. And thus actually the soils here, the climate, the terroir is perhaps slightly better suited to making table wines than some other locations along the Douro Valley. The way that Alves de Sousa operate is that they use native Portuguese grape varieties. They have some fantastic resources of old vineyards. So for instance, they've been able to create 2 table wines, the Lordello and the Abandonado, that are single vineyard wines from exceptional old vineyards that have really achieved some amazing critical acclaim over the past couple of decades. And the family have really built quite a reputation for their wines since they started to commercialise them under their own name in 1991. In fact, Domingos has on several occasions been named Winemaker of the Year by Portugal's Wine magazine. Today, Domingos' son Tiago has taken over as the winemaker. Domingos is still very much involved in the business, but Tiago, again, very typical of a new generation of Portuguese winemakers who have travelled widely, are technically skilled winemakers, huge understanding of the international market for wines as well as their own. The information I've seen about this wine suggests that it's a blend of 4 varieties, those being Tinto Rores, Touriga Franca, Tinto Rao, and Touriga Nacional. However, other information I've seen suggests that this is a blend of 20 different native Portuguese varieties. Those seem to conflict, but actually I think that's probably absolutely correct. I'm sure there are 20 native varieties in this one wine, because a lot of these old vineyards, and this is made from vines that are over 60 years old predominantly, some of them up to 90 or so years. These old vineyards are often interplanted with different varieties, and I don't just mean sort of planted in different blocks of varieties, a different variety from vine to vine along a row. There are a number of terracing systems, but many of the vines are planted in the old-fashioned terraces that are very typical of the Douro. So as a result of this, the fruit is hand-picked. You'd be a brave man to drive a machine harvester in these situations. At the winery, they're totally destemmed. Fermentation lasts 5 or 6 days with the skins. Following that, there's a further 8 days maceration prior to the wine being drained off the skins. Aging takes place in new French oak. It's a mixture of Allier and Nevers oak, so different forests having slightly different characteristics there. And the wine ages in barrel for 6 months, and then once bottled, spends a further year in the cellars at Quinta de Gaivosa to allow the wine to marry and for the portions of the blend to harmonise in the bottle. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? Start by sort of saying it's almost inky reddish colour, almost inky dark red. Having said that, actually the depth of colour is not so great, because I can see the stem of the glass by looking down through the wine. Swelling it, the wine has 14.5% alcohol and is throwing very distinctive tears or legs, whatever you want to call them, on the glass there. Incidentally, I accessed this bottle via a caravan, just to make you aware of that. Let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? The aromas are rich, powerful, opulent and plush. There's a really high-toned ripeness there. There's a not really over-ripeness, but high ripeness, very ripe plum, slightly jammy, notes of boysenberry, notes of dark red to black cherry. There's a really powerful primary fruit there. The oak isn't showing through. The fruit is completely dominating the nose there. But like I say, it's not overly ripe. It's not raisined. It's not prune. There's a freshness to those aromas as well. And perhaps there are just hints of cedar and vanilla at the end of that. If so, they're beautifully harmonised in with the fruit. So let's have a taste, shall we? That's quite a full wine, relatively full-bodied, with some lovely fine tannins, really beautifully fine silky tannins. Not harsh, it's got really good acidity, there's a lovely freshness there. There's a core of bitter licorice there, and wrapped around that you've got this lovely, juicy, black cherry fruit, maybe touches of boysenberry, you know, just heading towards a little bit of red fruit as well. But there is that sort of rich, black, dark fruit. It's almost a touch earthy, but as I say, licorice, a concentrated licorice note making up the core of that. The tannins, as I say, starting off really fine, they have a suppleness to them. This is not an astringent wine. This is a really quite polished, modern style wine, showing some really lovely fruit. It's very attractive, really still quite young, 2020. It's a 3-year-old wine. There's plenty more to find in there. Now I'm seeing a little bit of cedary grip, perhaps a little bit of cinnamon spice on the back palate. But yes, finishing still with that lovely, juicy, black cherry roundness. Like I said, there's a lovely, polished, modern wine with great intensity, with lovely structure, and the elements are working really harmoniously together. Be very easy to drink now. I'm sure you could age this for up to 10 years without a problem at all, possibly much longer. So yes, that was Quinta da Gaivosa, the red wine from 2020 from Alves de Sousa. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, do please like the video. Do please consider sharing it with your friends if you think they'd be interested. Do follow us on YouTube. We'd love to have your support. Do leave any comments you have. We'd also be interested to know what you think about the wines, about the tastings we're doing, or any other related matters. But most importantly, I do hope you'll make the time to join us for another tasting in the very near future. Thank you very much. Bye for now.